Which is faster, the London Underground or a London taxi?
And you leave by York Road, comply with the one way and turn left into Waterloo Bridge.
I'm currently driving from Euston to Waterloo Station, and then I'm going to repeat that journey in the London Underground. And we're going to see which is quicker. But stay tuned to the very end, because I'm even going to be taking on the Elizabeth line. Let's get started.
Now, I'm specifically picking routes that can be done on just one tube line.
Because invariably, changing tube lines is where time becomes a premium on the London Underground. Station to station is quite a common one in the cab. If you're travelling across the country, say from the north down to the south somewhere, many people just don't want to have to interact with London. So even though the tube might be quicker, if you've got a lot of cases, if you're in the middle of a really long travel day, most people will just get a taxi because it's quite easy to just skip the central London bit by going straight there. Yeah, and this is a fairly straight line in terms of the cab route as well. Just go straight down through Russell Square, Southampton Row, Kingsway, Aldwych, over Waterloo Bridge, and drop my hypothetical passengers off at the steps. I'm calling this one the commuter journey.
Now, as we're driving at midday-ish traffic, this can be sort of expected as we head down Southampton Row into the Kingsway.
We're down to one lane on the Kingsway. No, that is of course the only issue with the taxi.
Now, us taxi drivers can actually use the bus lane that goes from Russell Square all the way down to the Aldwych. But in this instance, the bus lane is blocked.
And why? Because coaches. I've never understood this, why the coaches all park out on a Kingsway like this.
Yes, that adds some serious time to the journey.
Finally going. Wow. I haven't had traffic that bad on the Kingsway for a while. That's actually mildly stressful. Right, very nearly on the home straight. Over Waterloo Bridge, the best view in all of London. Round Tennyson Way, and we'll see if the roundabout's backed up. Always good fun, that. Great view. Yeah, the roundabout's backed up. Lovely. Cool, this is painful.
The drive takes me just over 22 minutes.
And into the Waterloo steps for the drop off. Bish, bash, bosh. So admittedly, that was kind of slow. Let's see how we get on with the tube journey. So we're back at Euston. 22 minutes isn't a great time to beat, but I'm hoping because it's the Northern line, I've got to go down quite a lot, so that's going to kill some time. Also getting into Euston, and conversely out at Waterloo as well. Let's get this timer started. Sick.
At Euston, I eventually find my way down to the Northern line, and the most un-Londoner thing happens, in that the tube pulls up exactly as I'm on the platform.
It would appear that getting the tube, if you're going from a station to a station without changing on any line, is quicker than a taxi apparently.
Now, whilst my taxi didn't beat the tube in this instance, I'm fairly adamant in slightly different circumstances, it can beat the tube, it can be done.
Now, low time is what we're aiming for on this tube versus taxi challenge, but there's one thing that you don't want low, and that is your testosterone levels. Big thanks to the partner of today's video, who is Manual, men's healthcare made easy. You might have seen in a previous video, I used their testosterone replacement treatment to test my testosterone levels. That's a lot of tests, but thankfully from doing that, I could see that I had adequate amounts of testosterone. The symptoms of low testosterone include low mood, fatigue, low libido, increased body fat, amongst other things, such as poor quality sleep as well. The trouble is, if you don't know where your levels are at, how can you possibly thrive and be in your best condition? Well, that's where Manual's convenient service comes in. Through next day delivery, you can get an at-home testing kit. It's super simple, it's just an easy finger prick, and then you send it off to a lab to have it assessed by one of their clinicians. You get the results back in a matter of days, and from there, depending on the result, you can optimize. So if you're not within the sweet spot, Manual have a complete range to ensure that you can get yourself back up to optimum levels. Even better is that they're giving you a full 45% off of your first at-home testing kit. Just use the code TOMH45 or the link in the description down below. I know my levels. Do you know yours?
Let's try a different route, one that shoppers absolutely love. Tottenham Court Road to Marble Arch.
You know the drill. Right at the start of Oxford Street, we need to get down there. Let's go by the tube. Everyone is coming up to me. It's ridiculous once I do some kind of filming like this. So this one is an interesting one. From Tottenham Court Road up to Marble Arch.
One of Europe's busiest shopping streets at approximately 1.2 miles long and attracting 200 million visitors a year, it's no wonder why many people want to do this journey in a taxi or maybe take the underground. Let's give them a go. Now the poor end of Oxford Street is looking clear as we traverse our way west.
Oh, it's looking a little bit clearer than I expected.
And even the stickiest bit, the junction of Oxford Circus, is looking pretty clear. Now, whilst the Central Line might only be 3 stops to Marble Arch, we might be in a little bit of luck here, because there's a long ass corridor before we even get to the platform. And once I get to the platform, there's a 6-minute delay for the tube. It's looking like this might be an easy win for the taxi.
I get customers who do this route sometimes because it's an odd one to get on the tube for, because you're only getting on the tube to then go 2 stops to Marble Arch, then get out of Selfridges. So is it quicker in a taxi or not? This is exactly what I mean about like hating Oxford Street. Just look at it. Absolute carnage.
It slows up a little bit outside of Selfridges because there's a lot of bus and taxi activity here.
And here's the sticky bit by Selfridges.
As well as the crossroads of Orchard Street, North Audley Street. But despite the luck which heavily favoured the taxi journey, I still managed to complete the tube journey in under 16 minutes. Conversely, the taxi took 19 minutes.
So even with a delay, that was still 3 minutes quicker than my taxi. I ended up over there, that spot there.
I honestly thought this challenge would be dead easy, and we haven't had a win in the taxi yet. So I picked a journey that I was sure to win, the tourist route of Tower Hill to Westminster Station.
Let's get the clock going and let's get started. Obviously the advantage, I've got the District and the Circle line, so I've got a choice of 2 trains.
Now I'm cheating here slightly. I've specifically chosen this direction because Tower Hill to Westminster Station, you have 2 lanes of traffic traversing very neatly along the Thames. It generally always flows pretty well up until Embankment Station at least.
Gosh. Entrance around that way.
In the taxi, we're off to a slightly slow start because we've got to get out of Trinity Square, the worst part of the journey.
It's always awful, hence what we're seeing here.
The benefit of the tube in this instance is that the District and Circle line isn't too deep underground. You've only got to go down a few flights of stairs, and that can save you some serious time in a challenge like this. Even though the train is waiting there for me, it does wait before it finally pulls off. Back to the taxi.
All I know for certain is that if I did the reverse of this job, so from Westminster to Tower Hill, especially at this time of day, about 3 o'clock, I would most certainly lose to the District line. I probably won't get through these ones. Yeah, of course I wasn't going to get through these ones. Just over 4 minutes of this journey was getting out of Trinity Square itself. Let's hope that there's no problems on the Victoria Embankment.
And even though it's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, I'm absolutely ploughing along Upper Thames Street and the Victoria Embankment.
Splendid. Very nice.
Surely the District line doesn't stand a chance, stopping at all those pointless stations like Monument, Cannon Street, Mansion House, Blackfriars, Temple. I mean, even just listing them is probably going to take longer than the taxi journey. This has got to be in the bag for the black cab.
Oh no, we're down to 1 lane up ahead. What's going on? What's going on? And then we're stuck behind a tour bus, 15 mile an hour.
And after what feels like an eternity on the tube, I finally get to exit Westminster Station.
I mean, it's usually at this point in the journey when people say, "Excuse me, driver, can we get out and just walk the rest of the way?"
Ensuring that I'm through the barriers a little bit quicker than Arthur Weasley.
Westminster Station is literally just there.
And I'm quick to learn that there's an exit directly under the Queen Boudica statue on the Victoria Embankment, just to make this even more efficient.
So we'll call it there. How about that? 17 minutes and 40 seconds. Well, I wouldn't have honestly expected that. It was a minute faster. Bizarre really, because even the whole time when I'm on the train and I'm feeling it stop at every station, it just feels so goddamn slow. This is not good news.
So, third line down, and I'm feeling quite dejected. You know, I designed this challenge. I thought 2 of these would be reasonably easy, and maybe we'd lose out on the Elizabeth line for fun later on. So it got me thinking about the nature of taxi journeys. And inherently, they're not this simple. You know, if you're going from tube station to tube station directly, then yes, a tube is most certainly going to be the quickest at doing that. But it's when you throw a little bit more variables into the mix where people might sort to use a London taxi, i.e. door-to-door service. And if one of those doors doesn't happen to be a tube station, it might be quicker to get a taxi. Like, let's take the first example. You're chowing down on some fine Malaysian cuisine at Rotti King, and you need to get to the Old Vic Theatre. Now, on the map, objectively, this is pretty much Euston Station to Waterloo. Factor in the time of walking across the road into Euston Station when you could already be on your way in a taxi down Eversholt Street, and conversely at Waterloo, getting out onto Waterloo Road and walking the remainder of the journey to the Old Vic on the cut. Not to mention the air-conditioned bliss in the hot weather. What about the second journey? Well, maybe let's say you're in Fitzrovia. Now, Fitzrovia isn't that far from Oxford Street, but by the time you've walked down to Oxford Street and then to Tottenham Court Road, you might as well just start walking west or hail down a taxi. And in the Tower Hill example, well, if you've come from the Tower of London, you've got to walk up to Tower Hill before you can get on the tube. Whereas with the taxi, there's a rank directly there outside the Tower of London. You can be whisked away in an instant. And you haven't even got to get out of Trinity Square either. But the biggest thing I've realised in nearly 7 years of driving a taxi and a decade or so in retail before that is that stuff doesn't always have to be objectively measured. If you derive value in just measuring time and money, you're gonna have a pretty sad existence, because some of the best experiences in life make no sense in objective measures and could be, quote, a waste of time. Let me explain a bit further. You know, we could conclude that nutritionally, eating rice and beans at home could achieve the same outcome as going to eat steak at a fancy restaurant. But we do that because that's a nice experience. You can spend that with other people. Rice and beans, cheap, easy, convenient, at home. Steak, well, there's a little bit of faff going out. You've got to pay to get there. You've got to pay a bit more, and you're only going to consume it and it's just going to come out the other end anyway. What's the point? Well, that's why we are alive. That's why we live. And the same can apply for transport options. Sometimes you just don't want to have to deal with other people. Sometimes you just want air conditioning. Other times, you just don't want the faff. Even in the case of this video, I've chosen tube journeys with just one tube line. Because even when I visit town, unless I absolutely have to, I will only use one tube line.
If I take the faster route, I have to change trains, dick around, go down an escalator. And so you're absolutely right that transport apps are all optimized around speed.
Plus, the central line is pretty hot. So even though I have got a dot matrix display that's telling me the train is 6 minutes late, just physically standing there waiting on the platform can feel a bit more uncomfortable and objectively longer than if I was within a moving vehicle, even if that moving vehicle is actually taking longer. I want to share the story of when I took a couple of ladies to Waterloo Station. It was late at night, and on the approach to the IMAX roundabout from Stamford Street, naturally the traffic built up there. Now, I let them know that from this point onwards, it's probably going to be quicker to walk from here. But they were quite happy to just sit in the back of the cab. I said, well look, it's going to take longer if you sit in this cab. I said, yeah, but driver, we've had a lovely evening. We've not seen each other for ages, and we're just really enjoying this time to catch up before we finally say our goodbyes at Waterloo Station. And that just shows you really can't quantify some of these situations in life.
Lovely jubbly. Right, this is going to be the Paddington, Liverpool Street. What a stupid idea that will be. Final one of the day, Paddington to Liverpool Street. So let's get my timer on the go. This might be borderline sadistic, really, because obviously you've got the Heathrow Express. I can't even get it right. And let's get rocking. Thankfully I didn't choose rush hour to do this. Oh, mate.
Really enjoy your video.
Cheers, man. Yeah.
I've been doing this 40 years. I've learned more listening to you.
40 years driving. Wow. The only reason I'm taking on the Elizabeth line is because whenever I've walked around underneath and going from one platform to the other and stuff like that, it takes forever. The Elizabeth line just feels endless. I'm definitely not going to be going over the flyover by the looks of it, so we'll just cruise up in this lane here, and there's already a bit of a time saving there. In terms of a route, I think I'm going to come down Goswell Road, so I'm going to maximise the most of City Road. I don't want to get stuck in Old Street. We can overlay some of the footage of me in a nice air-conditioned Elizabeth line tube carriage.
Next station, Liverpool Street.
I want to come in through the Beach Street tunnel. I'm going to be a little bit, not sneaky, because that implies I'm up to no good. Crafty. Is crafty good? We've now just got to deal with the Euston underpass / overpass. I think I've probably made a fatal error doing this. Yeah, the more this goes on, the more I think I've already lost this. Just something in my brain just kind of went, the Elizabeth line, that'd be done now. We can only pray that some kind of mystery or slowness has happened on the Elizabeth line. 16 minutes. Even if I was like on the other side of Paddington Station, it'd probably be like 20 minutes. That's never going to happen. Even if it was completely clear of traffic, you'd be hard pushed to get here in 20 minutes.
Even in the dead of night, maybe even during COVID, I don't think I could ever get from Paddington to Liverpool Street in 20 minutes. That is light speed. That is incredible. But as we've learned in this video, there will always be a need for taxis. Life isn't as simple as A to B. Sometimes it's A to B to C to D with multiple drops and having nice social conversations with people in between. It might take a little bit longer. It might be quicker. It most certainly costs more. But then if you're splitting it with people, maybe it doesn't cost that much more. Life can't always be objectively measured, and that's one of the beauties of living. Sometimes we just need to enjoy life for what it is. Now, if you want to hear my experiences of the longest taxi journeys I've ever done, well, I'm going to leave that video over here. They're most certainly going to be more expensive than the train, but of course, there's lots of circumstances as to why someone would want to go so far in the taxi. That will be here.